They thought my lake was their secret. That's the crazy part. I bought this property for peace. Acres of quiet land, tall trees, and a beautiful private lake tucked behind a natural ridge where you couldn't see it from the road. It was the reason I signed the papers without hesitation. Early mornings with fog rolling over the water, coffee in my hand, no noise but birds and wind. That was the dream. For months, it was exactly that, until one Saturday morning when I noticed something strange. Ripples on the far side of the lake, like someone had just moved through the water. I assumed it was deer. Then I saw a bright blue float drifting near the reeds. I don't own a blue float. My stomach dropped. I walked around the edge of the lake and found footprints. Not one set, many. Adults, kids, and tire tracks near the back fence line that I rarely checked because it borders undeveloped land, or at least that's what I thought. The following weekend, I decided to sit quietly on my dock before sunrise. Around 7:30 a.m., I heard laughter. Laughter on my property. I stayed low and watched as two teenagers pushed kayaks into my lake from the tree line. Behind them came three adults carrying folding chairs like they had done this before, like it was normal. One of the men even said, "Told you nobody lives back here." That's when I stepped forward and said, "I do." The look on their faces was priceless. Shock, embarrassment, then annoyance. One woman actually had the nerve to say, "Oh, we thought this was community access." Community access to my private lake? I told them calmly they were trespassing. They left, muttering but not apologizing. And that's when I knew this wasn't random. This was organized. That afternoon, I walked the property line and found the truth. Someone had cut a clean opening through my back fence. Not broken, cut, intentionally. On the other side of the trees was a newly built upscale neighborhood. Big houses, expensive SUVs, perfect lawns, and apparently no lake. I later found out through a contractor I hired to repair the fence that word had spread in that neighborhood about a hidden lake behind the ridge. They had been using it for months, fishing, swimming, paddleboarding, birthday parties. My lake wasn't an accident. It was their private secret getaway. I installed trail cameras the next day. What I saw over the following week made my blood boil. Families walking through the opening like it was a park entrance. Coolers, dogs off leash. One couple even took engagement photos on my dock. My dock! I printed screenshots and went door to door in the neighborhood. Most people pretended not to know. A few admitted it casually. "Oh, we heard it wasn't really owned." Not really owned? I showed them my property map and deed. Silence. Then I asked who told them it was public. That's when one name kept coming up, the HOA president. I attended the next HOA meeting uninvited. When I walked in, the room went quiet. I introduced myself as the owner of the lake behind their development. You could feel the tension shift. The HOA president, smiling too confidently, said there must have been a misunderstanding and that residents believed the land was unregistered open space. I placed copies of my deed on the table. Then I printed photos of their residents swimming, fishing, and partying on my property. I explained calmly that I had already spoken to an attorney. The smiles disappeared. I told them the fence would be rebuilt, security signage installed, and any further trespassing would result in police reports and civil action. One man tried to argue that it benefits the community. I replied, "It benefits you. It costs me." Within a week, I installed a reinforced steel fence, motion lights, and visible no trespassing signs. I also had a land surveyor mark the boundary in bright stakes, so there was zero confusion. The first time the police escorted a group of teenagers out and called their parents, the message spread fast. Suddenly, nobody thought the lake was public anymore. The HOA president sent me a letter asking if we could discuss shared usage rights. I declined, respectfully but firmly. You don't secretly use someone's property for months and then negotiate after you're caught. The funny part? The peace came back. The mornings were quiet again, the fog rolled over the water like nothing had happened. But now, every time I sit on that dock, I remember how easily people convince themselves that if something is hidden, it must be free. My lake wasn't their secret, it was my property, and the moment I showed up, their little paradise disappeared. Now, whenever someone says, "Nobody will notice," I smile, because they noticed, and they won't forget the day the owner stepped out of the shadows.